Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Random Redshirt podcast, to season 8, the season 8 premiere of the Random Redshirt podcast. I am one of the hosts, Zach, and the other host is Chris. What's up, bro?
Hello, my dear friend Zach. I cannot believe it is season 8. How wonderful. And we welcome Nami. Nami, it is awesome to have you. Thank you so much for being with us. You're in fact our first composer that has been on. So thank you so much. This is going to be fantastic to have you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to dig in.
Yeah, we are thrilled to welcome the insanely talented musical composer Nami Melumad to the show. Nami's work includes some things you might have heard of, including Thor Love and Thunder, Dream Productions, part of the Inside Out franchise, Trek Prodigy, One Fast Move, and so much more. We certainly recognize her creative genius and the amazing music she has given us in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This year, she was invited to join the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences as part of their 2025 class. And in 2023, she was nominated for and won the Society of Composers and Lyricists David Raskin Award for Emerging Talent for her score on, surprise, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It really is an absolute treat for us, Nami. We have wanted to have you on for a very long time, and for those that have watched and listened to us for a long time know how much we have bragged about your music on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It was a pleasure meeting you in Vegas. And so, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. That was a pretty great introduction. I should ask you to come to any event. Introduce me.
Well, it's all factual. I mean, this is all stuff you've done. I mean, yes, there is some of our own opinions in there, but I think many people would share the same opinions we have on the work that you've done, for sure. What we want to do, what we like to do with all of our guests, Nami, is we like to do just like they do in Star Trek. We like to time travel. So we're going to jump in the Wayback Machine and go back in time, and like to talk to you a little bit about what your earliest memory that you have is for wanting to get into music and music composition.
Ooh, okay. So it's two different things for me. Earliest memory from music is that I really wanted to play the piano. And I think it didn't come genuinely from me wanting to do music, to be fair. I feel like it came from me wanting to be like my big sister who played piano. So because she did a lot of things and I kind of followed in her tracks, she went to Girl Scouts and she liked the Backstreet Boys and she played the piano. So I wanted to be like her, and I really insisted on playing, and I nudged my parents for a long time. And when I was 8, they were like, okay, here's classes, and you'll commit and you'll start learning. So I did, and that was actually the intro. It was through piano. And then they started a school orchestra at my elementary school. And the conductor picked an instrument for every kid, and he chose an oboe for me. Now, I don't know if you're familiar very much with the oboe, but it has these reeds that are very easy to break. It's like those bamboo reeds, kind of like it's very thin. And a 9-year-old child is very let's say I broke maybe 2 or 3 of those every week.
Oh, wow.
They were very costly. It was like approximately $25-$30 each at the time.
Wow.
So, and professional oboists, they don't break them so much, but also they just make their own leaves like that. And I didn't know how to do it because I was a kid. And the other thing is, oboe is very difficult. I played it for 2 years. And at some point, my mom was like, oh, this is not really, you keep breaking the reeds. Like, it's a huge expense that they did not, my friends didn't think this was going to happen. And the other thing, you play the oboe, like it's like, it's in front of you and you're like leaning toward it. And she thought my character is more like, like the flute where you're playing on, toward the air, like you're floating more and it's like very open. And the flute is metal, so it doesn't break. So that was the two. These were the two.
It's a good benefit.
to switch. But you know, it was also really hard to play the oboe. So after that, I switched to the flute. The main reason I joined the orchestra was again not a musical reason. There was a boy who played the euphonium, and I really too wanted to impress him. And that's you know how that's why I joined the orchestra from the beginning. But then I kind of fell in love with the music. Like I really enjoyed being part of the ensemble and you know, both in the flute chair and the oboe chair, you sit in the middle of the orchestra and you hear everyone, and you get to play a lot of the melody because these are very melodic instruments, and it's just a really great experience. Then I joined the city orchestra, um, and so that was the you know the main reasons I got into music were the wrong reasons, but I stayed because I really loved music and I you know enjoyed every aspect of it, whether it was playing, and then slowly I started writing too. And then the passion toward film music started maybe I was around 12 years old. Like I started really listening to music in movies. It was Home Alone and Harry Potter, and there was Lord of the Rings starting to, you know, and a bunch of other soundtracks, of course. And I started listening to a lot of soundtracks. Like sometimes I would know the music before I watched the film or the French. Like this is kind of what happened with Star Trek and Star Wars. Like I knew the scores. I listened to the Jerry Goldsmith theme. I heard the John Williams stuff, but I didn't, you know, it took a while until I actually watched it. So it's interesting. Like there's still movies I haven't seen, like The Rock, the Hans Zimmer score.
Mm.
Never seen it. It's a great like score, music wise. I love it. I should really see it, you know? This was around that time. And yeah, but there's one specific movie that really got me into like wanting to write. And that was a Dutch movie called The Tweeling in Dutch. In English, it's called The Twin Sisters.
Mm.
And it was a World War II movie, like a period drama about two sisters who were separated, like twin sisters. One of them grows up in the Netherlands and one of them grows up in Germany, and like how their life kind of interacts or like don't interact anymore through the World War II aspect of it. And it was such a like a great emotional ride. And musically, it had a theme that was carried through orchestral stuff and then piano and then jazz, like big bands. Like it was just so nice how the composer sort of weaved the theme. And I just loved that theme so much. I tried to play it on piano. And
Mm.
when I realized, oh, I can play it, like, wait, this is, you know, it's a melody and these are the chords. And like, you know, slowly I kind of got to the realization that maybe I could do something like that, you know? Um, so that's how it all started, kind of, you know, that movie. Yeah. And the composer, it's a Dutch composer. His name is Frans Merkies. And a few years ago I went to the Netherlands and I'm still a big fan of his. So we met and it was like you know, yeah, I asked him to sign the soundtrack and everything. Like it was very inspirational for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wonderful moment. You can meet the individual that helped inspire you like into your path. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm sure he didn't really expect this because it's such a, you know, it's not like a super it was I think it was nominated for Best Foreign Picture in 2002. Like this was a while ago. But it's not a movie that a lot of people know about, and you know he's doing a lot of scores in the Netherlands. So you know I'm half Dutch, so I guess that's why I knew that.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, he was kind of surprised, you know, like, and I think it was a really special moment for him to, yeah.
Wow. Have you found yourself like since you loved his composing, like in your work now, in your techniques on how you approach like a story, have you found yourself like taking what he's done and trying to like internalize it and then
Yeah,
crafting and creating something new for you? Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like, his work really, you know, it really, and his other work too, by the way, like he's really brilliant with melody. So yeah, he's like, a lot of times especially if I'm stuck on something, I'll listen to things that I really like and like kind of, clear my head, but also go back to like why I love this and why I keep doing this. Um, and yeah, I mean, I guess it's from two elements. Like one, the inspirational element of it is like, okay, like here's how something that I really love is written, but also from a technical standpoint, like, okay, here's how he did like, okay, and I analyze the score like
Mm.
from the top to the bottom and backwards and like it's the kind of score where I know it by heart. There's many scores like that, by the way, where I listen to them so many times. One trick I really like to do, and this is something I also tell younger composers, if there is a piece that you like, listen to it like 10 times, let's say. First, listen to the basses, and then listen to what the clarinet is doing, and then listen to what the synth is doing, or what the drums are doing, or so kind of take a listen to like listen to, let's say, to the rhythms or the pacing or the texture, or the colors. So kind of like try to focus on the elements. And not just like think, oh, because it's so easy to dive into like the emotion part of the music. But
Mm.
if you're looking at from it, you want to look at it from like a technical standpoint, or like how did they do that? How did they create that? Um, then getting to know the piece for real is to really try to focus. And sometimes it's actually really hard. Um, so yeah, there's albums I listen to in the car, uh, and I listen to that over and over again for like a month or two until I'm like, okay, I actually learned that. So it's kind of fascinating that like how much you can learn from a piece of music just by listening, you know. Especially like a lot of times my first listen would be like the basses, as I said,
Mhm.
and then like what are the chords, like kind of like and trying it in my head, not on the piano, just to understand like the relations. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think all of us can agree that the musical score for movies and television really bring out the best of a show or a movie, right? I mean, you watch something like Star Wars or Jurassic Park, which I know because there's both John Williams there, or The Rock or something like this, and that musical element, if that wasn't there, the movie's just not as good. I mean, the music really makes those scenes and those moments in the movie so much richer and full of so much more depth. I'm fascinated, and I've been fascinated for a long time by the composition process that is done to write a score for something, whether it's the television or movies. Uh, is there a big difference when you're scoring something for a movie versus scoring something for a television show?
Yes. There's a few different stuff. It's more technical things, I guess. Because the main the main aspect of writing, the best that you can do for the picture, is the same. But I'll explain. So in TV world, usually the deadlines are way more tight, let's say.
Yeah.
There's less time. There's you're dealing with different people sometimes. So there's in TV, there's someone who is the showrunner, and that showrunner oversees the entire season and or seasons. Um, and he or she are the main the main person you work with on music, whereas the TV directors are usually they're directing the episode, they're doing a director cut with the editor, and then they're kind of off the project, or going to direct the next thing for this particular or but they're mainly like during production and a little bit of post production, but what the main work is done, with the I mean, for me, with the executive producer who's the showrunner. In film world, you almost always work with the director. So the director directed the film and also does the entire post-production process. So the vision is a bit different. And then you have, a movie is what, like 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. A TV show, you have, anything from an hour to 40 hours or even more of score that you're going to write. So in a way, you have way more time to develop a theme or like to install a certain idea in episode one and come back to it in episode three and then do it more elaborately in episode five and really, go with the development of the character and into episode 25. Like, you're going to sometimes end up in a different spot. So it really actually helps to know what is going to be the arc of the character. Like, for example, in Prodigy, I knew some stuff about the Diviner's character. I don't know if you guys watched the show, but like I knew, okay, this is where he's gonna be in season two. Like that's the trajectory of where this is going. Okay, let's install what we're gonna do. Like his mission is so religious. Like there's a reason he's doing all this stuff. Like he's not all bad. Like, okay, let's see how we can put these things in like, as hints in episode one and in episode five and like whenever he's like, so and it was that way with a lot of the characters. So I try to do that. Sometimes it's you don't know what's gonna happen, So Strange New Worlds is a bit more like that, where I'm like, okay, where are we heading with this? But when I'm seeing, okay, this is going to be a relationship between these two people, then okay, I'm gonna write, a romantic theme for this because it's gonna be something. And I can see it's a reoccurring thematic thing during our the course of this season. So I feel like in TV you have a bit more room to like explore and develop. While film, you have to be super precise. There's, I guess, less redundant dialogue. I hate to say the word redundant because every dialogue is important, and when we spend time with the character, it's also meaningful for us to understand. But I feel movies are always more condensed and more like there's no detail that shouldn't be there. Like it's so precise. Again, there's TV shows like that too, but TV is just such a bigger scope. Like there's maybe a little less detail sometimes. Um, so yeah, I mean, both things are super fun to do. I enjoy the challenge of movies because you always have to like reinvent something, and you have 3 months to work on it, or half a year, or 3 weeks. But you constantly create a certain concept from the beginning every time. On a TV show, you create it, for episode one, season one, maybe episode one, season two, episode one, season three. Like you're gonna make some changes. Obviously, Star Trek is a little different because sometimes we're going in very different directions. But most TV shows, if you look at that, like you're creating a concept and it's gonna run, and it's gonna develop, but it's gonna, stay around the same world of instruments, of soundscapes, of textures, of what you're gonna, of the instruments you're using, to create it. While film, again, you're doing that every film, unless it's a franchise, and then it's kind of different. But yeah, I guess that's the main differences for me. I enjoy both. I really like both. So yeah.
Yeah, each one seems to would present its own unique challenges, right?
Yeah, definitely unique challenges. I will also say, again, like every movie can be like it's always about who you're working with, like who's the director, or who's the creative team. Like a lot of times there will be influence from the editors in feature films, but sometimes, like for example, in Pixar, we had a lot of influence from the main editor of the show as well. And on Strange New Worlds, also, like usually the editors will send some feedback and notes and things that they think about music. They'll participate in the spotting sessions. They will be part of the process, and that really like changes between filmmakers. Like some filmmakers will be more like the movie I'm working on now. The editors are not really involved in the process. Like the director is more of, the person who's in charge, and like the meetings are always the director. Like, so it really changes. I do like it when it's a very collaborative environment. And I see that usually in film it's a little more like that. So but it's just, again, every case is very different.
The collaboration is really important. You have such a powerful influence on like how we perceive the characters. So like in film, you're talking about that relationship that you might have with the director, that you might have with the editor, that you might have with the composer, well, with yourself.
With the composer.
Yeah, with the composer. Do you find like, and so at the beginning when a script is written, each of you individually has this sense of like who this character is, right? So do you find yourself like when you start collaborating here, the character kind of goes in a direction like you all didn't realize, or it comes into like this nice kind of direction that you go, oh, our joint collaboration made this like really special kind of thing that we didn't foresee.
Yes and no. I want to say like mostly not, because music simply is a post-production element in most cases. And so like more often than not, the composer will join at the stage where there's already a cut, and sometimes it's even a final cut. Sometimes it's an early cut, but like usually the character will already be on screen. It does happen where I read the screenplay, and based on that I will, but that's very like if a lot of animation, let's say, like when things are planned ahead for 2 years, and you're like, okay, this is what the character is going to do, and what she's going to be like, and then I'll write some theme for her, but it doesn't happen a lot, and I don't know whether like some I think some directors will be influenced maybe, but they'll listen to what you did, and like it's not usually the case though. Like
Yeah.
usually there's a vision of the writer or the filmmaker, and then they shoot it, and then there's an editor that comes in, and maybe the character completely changes. It happened to me on a movie where I started working on an early cut, and by the end of the process, there was a whole character that was not in the movie anymore.
Oh, wow.
It was a supporting character. It was the girlfriend of the main protagonist. And, I can only imagine how the actress felt. Like, it was nothing wrong that she did. She did amazing performances. It was so funny. It was so beautiful. And the editors eventually and the director decided that it was not the right thing for the movie and that there shouldn't be a girlfriend. And they deleted all of her scenes. So, it was not the music. I don't think it was the edit either. It was just the story didn't want to have that character. The story needed to progress faster. So sometimes you do discover these things. It's just not usually through the music. It never happened to me that like, oh, they were like, oh, you wrote her so scary, or like, let's remove her, or like, oh, she should be more scary. Like, there are some stuff where you present an idea, let's say, and then they're like, oh, we love this, let's do more of that. Let's emphasize this. Let's go with it. Let's do it across all the scenes, or like, how about we take this and like, do it on this character, not this one. So these ideas do come in, of course. But I wouldn't say they really shape the performances or how it's already is. It's already existing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, I have to ask you about the Dream Productions show. My daughter is a massive, massive fan of the Inside Out movies, and
Oh.
she loved, loved, loved the Dream Productions show. I have noticed that she very much is in tune and listens to the music and really enjoys the musical composition of shows and movies and mentions that quite a bit. So I'm curious, when it comes to doing musical composition for an animated series, does that present its own unique challenges compared to live action television and movies?
Yes, I feel like there's two things with animation that are a little more challenging, let's say. One thing is that you have such a huge responsibility in term like there's almost always wall-to-wall music. Like there's so much music. I will actually say that Pixar is that particular style is not that. But when you look at other shows, animations, and projects I worked on, like music takes such a forward position on these things because you don't have a lot of live elements, right? Like
Mm,
everything on screen is created
right.
by artificial things. Like there's no sound that comes from the real world from a sound from a microphone. There's no dialogue that comes directly from an actor on screen on camera. Like there's not a lot of live human things. So you want to create as much to bring as much human like elements to make it live as possible. And so music is part of that, and it's always like very transparent. Let's say in animated shows and movies, and so that could be a good thing and a bad thing because it's a great thing I think because it's amazing that you get to like have such a big responsibility, and at the same time it's like a big responsibility, and you're like holy shit, like a
Mhm.
lot is on my shoulders right now. Um, so yeah, I'd say this is the one of the bigger challenges for writing. The other thing is yeah, because you're so exposed, you have to be very quick sometimes with transitions. Um, a lot of animation is very expensive to make. Sometimes more than live action, I would say. Every frame, there's so much work that goes into it, like to produce and to make it work. Um, and so a lot of times those shows or movies will be, transitioning very quickly from one thing to another. Um, so that's on Pixar and also on Prodigy, for example. Moods can change. Like there's a joke, you want to hit it, like you want to, okay, then now we're going to like a little action sequence. Okay, now there's so much nuance that you have to grab in a very natural way, like in a very like so it flows smoothly. Um, so I feel and even if you watch cartoons, like it happens, like it's something that is so present in these quick thing, like it's across the board that it has to be very quick. Um, so yeah, I again, even with Pixar, that was the case. There's like a lot to catch. The score has to sort of um, tailor everything together in a way that feels very, very cohesive. It's also true about live action, but it's way more challenging in animation land, I think. And that's across any genre that you do. Like Dream Production is very funk, like 70s kind of jazz rock-ish. Um, you know, it's the same with orchestral stuff, like Inside Out 1 and 2, super orchestral stuff, but it's still doing that same work. Um, and honestly, one of the films that I saw that is last year that kind of was really interesting score wise was Flow, the movie about the cat.
Mm.
It won the Oscar.
Oh, yeah.
Um, the director wrote like most of the score on that one. That was an interesting take on animation, and there was a lot of like Atmo stuff that and I feel in one way it was really immersive. And on the other hand, I felt like okay, there is a lot of transition, like things that could have been more nuanced and more, had it was his main thing that he does. But kudos to him for doing it. I'm just saying, like that was one where I'm like, okay, if there was a different score, I think maybe it would have helped even better. Again, I love the movie, really enjoyed it. I recommend it to everyone, and yet like in some spots, I was like, okay, there could have been this and that, to elevate that. So, yeah.
So with Dream Productions, did you find inspiration for the composition you did for that from the first two Inside Out movies at all? Like, did any of that influence how you wrote the score for Dream Productions?
No.
Okay.
I will also say, in the timeline, Dream Productions was done around the time that Inside Out 2 was being made. And I'm pretty sure that we recorded it before, and I think it was like maybe a month apart. So I didn't really hear any of Andrea's score for Inside Out 2. Of course, I'm always influenced by Michael Giacchino's work. I mean, I grew up on that, and then he's a good mentor and friend, and like I worked with him a lot. So I am very influenced by his work. I'm pretty sure that in the back of my mind, I still hear sometimes him saying, "Oh, don't do this or do this," or like, "This is brilliant, I love it," So in a way, yes, Inside Out, one, I will say definitely influences my choices as a composer at large.
Okay.
Specifically on Dream Productions, like stylistically, it's really not, there's zero connection. We did try at one point to bring in the Dream Production theme, like, because he did like a track called Dream Productions when on the first movie when there's like this we see actually Dream Production, we see Paula, we see like, a little glimpse of what they're doing there, and that, which then drove this entire thing. So I kind of try to take that theme into like the style that we're doing for our score, which, I wouldn't say was super orchestral, it was partly orchestral, but the main elements in our score were like rhythm section and those vibraphone and like percussions. Like it was not like, or the orchestra was not the leader here. And with that late 60s and early 70s style, it just didn't flow. Like I tried two different versions where I'm taking this melody and putting it in, and it just didn't land. And so we did try it. We did try it. It was an experiment. And sometimes it's a good to do these experiments because you're like, okay, this is not working.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of trial and error. There was also a playlist that our showrunner Mike made, and the things that like he listened to when he worked on writing the show. And so I got really into it. Like I listened to these songs. It was mainly songs, some instrumental stuff, and I heard a lot of that B3 in there, and a lot of kind of soul funk. And I felt like it was actually a very good direction to go with. And obviously, it's such a colorful show. Like, so you want more colors. You want to include way more elements and things that will represent the characters too. For example, the baritone saxophones for the studio head, who's like the villain, kind of. That was a cool animal because really sassy, but also, it has a presence. It's, maybe a little threatening. But at the end of the day, we still love her because she's awesome. um, but also she's badass, but also she's making bad choices, and like she's not the best person to, he doesn't treat other people well. Um, so it was a deliberate choice. So there's stuff like that where you have to think what is the best fit for the character or like for what we're trying to capture.
So Zach and Nami, so Zach was mentioning earlier, I think at the Star Trek convention, that was the first time, Zach, that you had seen Nami.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
at a panel, and yeah, I'd love to like hear the story. I don't know what panel it was, or how all that came about, but Nami, had you been?
Was it with Alan?
Yes, that was the panel. Yeah, I sat in on that panel. The panel was great.
Yeah, it was such an interesting, like, because I was fascinated with Alan's stories about like the whales and the birds. Yeah, so I mean, I tried to go to Vegas just for fun, for the convention every year. I think this is like the third time I went.
Wow.
Before. I can't go every time because there's like, sometimes there's work and like I can't, like, if there's a deadline that's very immediate, then but if I can get away for like a day or two, it's an easy flight or drive from LA, then I'll do it. And it's just really fun to, first of all, to experience it like a fan, because I am a fan. And you get to like dress up sometimes, and you get to see all these very, very beautiful, the costumes people make, like, the cosplays. I also got to judge this year in the cosplay competition.
Oh,
It was just so inspiring. I couldn't stop taking photos. Like almost every costume was original and fun, and people work on it for 3 or 6 months, and it's just so creative. It's really very similar to what we do on the show. And yeah, and it's really fun, if you get the chance to like meet people and meet friends and talk and see the actors as well, because I'm not on set. I don't really see a lot of the actors in real life. So it's really nice to, it's like a community, it's like a family event, really. I feel like it's that everyone comes to. I mean, not everyone, but like a lot of people come to. So it's I try to be there. And the panel was really interesting. Again, like Alan is an amazing sound person and also a composer. But on that capacity, he talked more about like the sound he did for Star Trek, the movies. And then at some point, like he talked about like the whale sounds, and how the
That
whales,
was fascinating.
because of the ocean pollution, like the noise pollution, oceans, the sound have changed, and it was not the same because they want it to be very authentic, right? And then at some point he tried to, what was that? He reversed like bird sound, and that was sounding
Yeah.
like the whales. Like it's just so brilliant. And then when you reverse the whale sounds, it sounds like birds. So it's like very godly kind of, um, you're like you didn't expect that. There's yeah. Anyway, I recommend listening to him. I think that panel is somewhere on YouTube. I'm pretty sure they uploaded it at some point. So I learned a lot, and it was just very inspiring to like spiritually.
Wow, I'm gonna try and check out that panel. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be really, really, really cool to
You can
see.
you can you can fast forward on the Nami score stuff. That's
Oh no, no, no.
you should just go to what because he's also a really good speaker. I'm not that good in public speaking. He's like amazing at that. So it's really really fascinating.
You did just fine at that panel, I promise. It was good.
Good.
Okay, so how did the job of musical composition for Star Trek Strange New Worlds come about?
Ooh. So it actually began with Q&A, which was a little short that we did as part of the Discovery shorts for season 2. And I was still like a very, like, I don't know if I was like, I would say a newbie because at that point I worked like 10 years
Hmm.
as a composer. But I was pretty, like, it was a little bit after school. I was like maybe 4 years out of USC. And I started working with Michael Giacchino on American Pickle. And he saw like what I did, and he was kind of impressed with it. And when they were looking for a composer, he told Alex, who's a producer for Star Trek, Alex Kurtzman, about me. And so I got the call to come and meet them and like do a spotting session and meet the team and like watch the episode. And it was about Spock's first day on the Enterprise. And it was my first day on the Enterprise as well. So a lot of feelings. But Spock is trying not to show them, right? Like, and so for me, it was the same. I'm like, oh no, it's, all cool, all good. But I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, how do I had to contain all my excitement, and it's my first time on the bridge too. But I think it was helpful to have that feeling because it's exactly the way that I could identify with the character very well, and showing how musically like to navigate that episode of him boarding and like this whole interaction with Una and their song together. So it's all overall really fun. We did a little scoring session at Warner Brothers. Michael was able to get like a little budget for an orchestra.
Hmm.
And so like later I found out it kind of served as a pilot for Strange New Worlds because that episode had the Strange New Worlds crew. It had Pike and Una and Spock. And so a few years later, they're starting Strange New Worlds. But for me, the continuation with Star Trek was Prodigy because Alex saw that it was a good episode and the music was really good. And then he suggested that Michael writes like a main theme for Prodigy and I'll do the score. So I started working on that. And when I did the pilot for Prodigy, there was a notes call. Like we went on a Zoom and they had so many notes. Like at some point, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like I'm gonna get fired. Like, it's so bad because there was just a lot of changes. And Alex keeps saying like, "Oh, I love this. This is great, but like, let's do this and that." And shift the tone. Like, let's bring more hope into this. Like, I don't want it to be too dark. Like, and and then he had to leave the call. And my showrunners, Dan and Kevin, continued to like give a little more, input. And I was like, okay, I'll fix it. It's gonna be fine,
Hmm.
And then maybe half hour later, Alex's assistant emails me, and she's like, "Oh, can you go on the Zoom again? Alex still wants to talk to you." Like, oh shit, like he has more. But then he was like, "Great job on Prodigy, and we're doing this other show, Strange New Worlds, and like, I think you did, I think you'd be a good fit for it. They're like, do you want to work on it?" And I was like, "This is really not what I expected." And I was so happy, because it did not go well, but it did. So yeah, that's how it started with Strange New Worlds. Really, that's how the Q&A ultimately led through Prodigy to Strange New Worlds. And yeah, we're now on season 4. I just finished the 5th episode, so we're basically half season in terms of the music is done, half of the season. And it's exciting. I'm also I wrote something that will be used in the set of season 5, which is already being shot. So
Ooh.
that's really cool. Yeah. It's like bittersweet because like, oh, it's coming to an end, but
Hmm.
we always kind of knew there's going to be like a 5-year mission. So
Hmm. Any surprises for you on the characters? Like,
oh, a
yeah,
ton,
yeah.
a ton.
Give us some spoilers. Come on. We won't tell.
I wish I could. I mean, honestly, I wish some stuff. I kind of wish I didn't know some stuff that
Mm,
are happening in season 5 because it kind of the Trekkie in me really would have preferred to not know. But yeah, because it's like you wanna kind of progress with it. I feel
mhm,
like as a composer, it's actually more helpful that I experience things in the timeline, so
mhm,
I know like I react to it in a more authentic way. Um, so yeah, but some episodes I'm like, yeah, I finished them and I cannot wait until the world sees them because I'm like, oh my God, like they're gonna be so happy with this, or like they're gonna love it, or sometimes I'm like, are they gonna love it? Like, is this gonna work?
Yeah.
mhm,
And sometimes after an episode is released, I like it more because I see how people reacted. So it's very interesting to see how sometimes my perspective changes over time. I'm like, oh, maybe that was not that bad.
mhm.
Or like, oh, this did not come out like I thought it was really good and people didn't like it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah,
Um,
now, you mentioned you are a fan of Star Trek, so like, we're curious. Like, is there any?
any Star Trek that I love, and should I grade the whole I could. It
Oh,
changes.
oh,
Honestly,
wow.
yeah, no. I feel like one of the top tracks for me is actually episode 309 in Strange New Worlds.
Ah, okay.
Terrarium. Like that kind of comes at the top, along with things like the Inner Light and things like that for me. Like it's sitting like in a very emotional, personal space for me. In terms of shows, I think, I have a really dear place in my heart for Prodigy,
Hmm.
for Star Trek Prodigy, and it's not because I wrote it, but it's because like it's just so well written. Like it's just so the characters they come in full circle. It's just such a it's like a love letter to the Federation and to like how people who are like aliens. It's the only show that takes the perspective of aliens and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
brings them into a federation as a refuge, and they find a real home there, and it also takes like you as a viewer who don't know anything about Star Trek, like for example, like younger children. And it kind of teaches them all these like, okay, what is a transporter? What is a universal translator? Like it really kind of it helps bring like this younger audience. And me seeing my nephews, for example, watch it and fall in love. It's like super meaningful. So that is for Prodigy. And then yeah, in terms of like the older track, love the movies, love DS9, I have to say. Voyager, Captain Janeway. My captain is Captain Janeway. Yeah, well, always been Janeway. Yeah.
You had me at DS9.
No, yeah, DS9 is like honestly, it was so interesting to watch it because it's kind of the first time where Trek went into longer form storytelling.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you have these Dominion wars that were longer, like you're like, oh, part one, it's just the stories were longer arcs. But it was still contained. Like it's still like Strange New World or like Voyager where there's like one mission, one story that happens in the episode. TNG, obviously. Yeah. I like older Trek for sure. I also like new Trek, but Lower Deck's amazing. Like, yeah.
Wow.
I have not seen the ending of Picard, so I cannot comment about that yet.
We won't spoil it, I promise.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still out in season 3. I haven't seen it yet.
Gotcha. So, with Star Trek and the rich history of the franchise, and in particular when it comes to New Worlds, obviously that is playing off of the original series, right? I know when Chris and I have done our episode reviews of Strange New Worlds, we have made several comments about I don't want to call them homages, but maybe some Easter eggs in the music and harkening back to TOS, and so, whether it's like music from the arena, or
100%.
yeah, or other TOS episodes where like, oh my gosh, there's little bits of TOS interwoven in the music, which is absolutely brilliant.
I would even go and say it's quotes. It's not even homages.
Okay, yeah, quotes, yeah.
Some of them are really like directly that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that question when it comes to Strange New Worlds and the music for that you have written. How important was it to you to interweave stuff from TOS, and what direction, if any, from producers and directors did you get as part of that musical composition?
So it is highly important for me, to be. As a fan, I would like to be served. And I feel like, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you do it with, the right amount.
Right.
I don't want to do it in every episode. There's no justification for it in every episode. In the Turlane episode, for example, we didn't do that. Like, there's places where it's not necessary or like you choose not to do it. In the and a lot of times it is actually like a request from producers. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to do that, and they don't even have to ask. Like it's very, very clear. On Arena, I was actually contemplating not to do it, and then one of the requests from Henry, our showrunner, was, oh, can we use the Arena theme? Like, can we include that? Like just when Ortega's actually recognizes Sigourney. And there is a quote there. I think we did something, I think it was my idea, like on an episode 110, I think when we were recognizing the Romulans,
the balance of terror. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it was, it is actually me going back to like that episode and looking at like exactly what Gerald Fried did or what, whoever, because there's a team of composers there and see, okay, should we do something like that? Like, and then, sometimes you want to have the like little triangle or something on Spock's, eye when he's like doing this little gesture. Like there are moments where it just makes so much sense, and we want to be, we are totally okay to do that because like the costume department is doing that. Like they're creating clothes that look like, this was from the 60s, and the sets sometimes look like that. And, even if I go and re-record something, it'll still sound very different, much more modern, like, and I can take a quote and make it like, change it a little bit or maybe even not change it not so much really. But it will, instantly have a different feel. Like there's no way to, unless we actually took the previous track and synced it. Um, but like when you're doing that with your ensemble, with your orchestra, with the sound that we're doing, it already kind of feels like more aligned with our show. And obviously, in that episode where Spock is, having a bit of a fight with himself, which is another reference. I think it was episode 104 or 204. No, 105. It was 105, the opening. So yeah, same thing. Like you take the theme and you reimagine that battle and where it goes, because it goes very dark. Um, it's not what you anticipate but it totally is a callback, and it makes 100% sense to do it. Now, there is one question sometimes with the Star Trek theme where I'm like, oh, or like the fanfare, ba ba bum. Do I do
Mm.
that? Do I not do that? Like on that one, sometimes I'm telling myself, don't do it.
Hmm.
Sometimes. On Prodigy, for example, it was a very deliberate, like let's only do that when there's a significant victory or some kind of like, when it's really strictly a Federation thing and not like just random like victory too. So it's a yeah, sometimes I'm trying to like, hold myself back on that because yeah, you don't want to do too much. It's like don't put too much salt in your salad.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I think we've had several conversations about the music on Strange New Worlds as when we've done our episode reviews. And I think we've said this several times that the balance has been so perfect between the callbacks and the quotes from the original series and the original music that you have written in Strange New Worlds. And it's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to do that. And trying to stay you know, authentic to the style. Again, like the style, if you watch the original series, there's some stuff that are maybe too like, they feel a little dated in terms of how film scores or TV scores are being made today.
Hmm.
Like the music is super active sometimes, and it's very like reacting to every little move and it's over dramatic sometimes, and it worked at the time, like,
Yeah.
and it's very creative and very smart, and the use of motivic stuff is amazing. I really admire these composers who were able to do this so quickly in a crunch time, and like, they didn't have these mock-ups that we do, and there's no time to like
Hmm.
create it in the computer and digitalize it and then move it to the score. Like, there's not this all, you know, again, I can only imagine how challenging and difficult it must have been. And I really like, there's so much respect there. But today, I wanna be respectful of that and like sometimes do that, but not it needed, like our show needed to be updated, right? Because again, the same way that the costume department doesn't look like the 50s or the 60s or 70s anymore. Um, and the sets and the actors too. Like, okay, we have Uhura, but she's a younger Uhura, and it's obvious it's not her. It's not Nichelle Nichols. Like, it's different. So. And she's amazing. With Spock, same thing. Like we have these legacy things, legacy characters, legacy. We're trying to honor it, but do it in a modern way, and I think that's what Score has been doing too. So using like modern techniques and you know the ways that now we're scoring films, and not like the super active kind of. Sometimes you want to let the dialogue be. And sometimes you opt to choose to be quiet. And sometimes like, you know, you'll want to emphasize something, or like you'll want the action scene to feel much more serious and much more scary and intense and less active, but more like, keeping you at the edge of your seat kind of thing. So it really changes. But again, I derive so much from the legacy of Star Trek music. Obviously, James Horner is one of my top, you know, composers in Trek. I'm very influenced by his work on the movies. Jared Goldsmith, Michael Giacchino. So I would say these three are the biggest influence, and then also Dennis McCarthy.
Mm.
So Yeah. Jay Chataway too. Like, I mean, again, I watched the whole, the whole track thing. So it's yeah, and obviously, again, other composers who have not done track that I listen to and I admire. I feel like Tom Newman influences my work a lot. He's never done track.
Hmm.
Maybe he will. I hope he will. It will be an interesting take. But he's done sci-fi. He's done like Passengers. That's such a great, amazing score. And even
Mm.
scores like The Judge, which is totally not like completely not sci-fi, but they have like all these very cool element, like very so interesting to see how bar after bar it's different. Like there's no bar that repeats the same. And then you have Hans Zimmer stuff, all this kind of that world of remote control where like those productions definitely influence like because the scope is so big, it just feels huge. And it does influence the writing, obviously. Scores like Interstellar, those things obviously are huge influence.
Mm.
You're working across like so many different genres, not only like from like project to project, it might be a different genre, but like but in a show, Strange New Worlds, it's like crossing different genres, like in each episode.
Oh my God. Wait, yeah. Wait for
Yeah.
season 4.
Yeah.
We can't wait. That's the problem.
Oh my God. I have to say, I previously said season 3 was my favorite, and I take
Mm.
it back now. I feel season 4, every episode I worked on so far has been like absolutely in the 90 to 100 like percent for me, like Rotten Tomatoes wise. I feel like they're so each of them is very unique, but I feel like they capture the essence of Star Trek in such a good way, like in honoring previous shows and just really staying in line. Like I feel like the writers really nailed those plots. And I don't want to spoil anything, but musically, it created a lot of challenges in these past 5 episodes. And I'm just really, really proud of it. Yeah, you'll see.
It sounds amazing. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
definitely looking forward to it.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah.
Like it's really I cannot wait. I really can't wait.
Oh, wow. I mean, is there a genre that is easier for you personally, like to get into, like, or are they all like equal?
I feel to be fair, comedy is my most at home genre,
Yeah.
which is funny because I have not done a lot of comedy in this capacity of Star Trek or I mean I Dream Productions is a comedy, obviously. The Woman in the House Across the Street from the Girl in the Window is like a dark, very dark comedy. Um, American Pickle is a comedy. Like, okay, so yeah, I have done comedy, but
Ah.
like in Star Trek, you don't have a lot of that. Sometimes like maybe once or twice a season. So that would be my go-to genre to be fair. I do feel a little more challenged when it comes to like darker horror things.
Mm.
It's weird because it's presumably a very easy thing to do. And once you're in it, but just like emotionally, I connect with it less, I guess.
Mm.
Because I mean, obviously, fear is a very human, and we all watch horror. But I guess because it's so, I see horror in my, I just opened the news and there's horror. Like I don't want that on my screen so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't need to, and this is again a very personal thing, but I feel like there's so much presence in like these horror in real life that I don't need those stories so much. I don't need these feelings emphasized when I watch things or when I work on things. That's why I'm a little less passionate about it, I guess.
Mm.
Because there's, you know, it's really enough to like live through certain things. And yeah, like I see a lot of value in drama and action
Mhm.
and like, like obviously comedy and lighthearted things and things that will make people feel good and great. And like the horror stuff, I just connect with it less, I guess.
Yeah.
And like same with superheroes, by the way, which is funny because I worked on Thor, but I love watching them from that perspective of, you go to a Marvel or a DC movie, you're like, oh, this is gonna be real fun, and it's fun and like really handsome actors and like really cool effects and super fun like chases and like, oh, okay, they're saving the world and like they're the good guys. There's a lot of moral stuff. Great. But at the end of the day, you're like, there is like real life heroes, and I would rather watch a documentary about a real life hero, maybe a less celebrated one, rather than like another, superhero that, we've, we've seen a lot of those. So, it's just a perspective.
Yeah, that's really meaningful, Nami.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really, really is meaningful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
These are good questions, to dive into. Like, makes me think, like I have to think about things.
Yeah. Okay. Something that we have been very curious about is the process of musical composition. So pick whatever project you want, whether it's Strange New Worlds or a movie or whatever. Can you walk us through your process from beginning to end? Like how do you get started? How do you say, okay, here's a script. Okay, go write some music and produce a score and bring it to screen. What's that look like? Because I wouldn't even know how to start.
Yeah, so again, usually you already like sometimes they'll send you a script before, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's interesting to see how like if you're by chance attached before they shoot, or like you read the script before the meeting, let's say, and then it's you later see the cut of the movie and like how it's sometimes changes dramatically. It's so interesting to see sometimes jokes that really worked on the screenplay really don't deliver well in the actual performance, and you're like, oh, okay, that was so funny when I read it, and now it's just not as funny, or the other way around where you're like, oh, this was not in the script, it's so good. So I will say, the very first thing you do on a project is you try things out. Like I feel like I'm experimenting with things often before the spotting session, and I like to open a blank page on my software, let's say, and then kind of start like, sketching. I call that sketching because I'll, maybe play along to it and I'll use the keyboard or I'll take a guitar or I'll, try to think of a melody. And then I'll, if, I'm like, oh, this needs this instrument and let's add this and let's add this. And if I already know this is going to be an orchestral thing, then I'll open like, the entire orchestra ready in the software. And I'm like, okay, here's the horn patch. Let's see what if I played this with horns, or like, what if I played this with vibraphone? Like, let's see how that feels. And then I'll try to come up with like variations, or like see how flexible the melody I came up with is going to be, or like the theme. Is it going to work in this variation? Is it going to work here and here? And I'll try it in different spots of the movie. Or maybe I'll take three notes of that theme and actually, preserve the relationship between the notes, but I'll play with it texturally different, or like I'll play it very up or very down, or like I'll change the order, or like do sequences. So we're trying or rhythmic things. Like there's so many things that you can do with your core, your core theme. And then I'll see if that works. If it doesn't work, if it's not memorable, if it's something that is not working, I'll probably know it within a day or two. It's interesting, like when you come up with a melody, sometimes you're like, oh my God, did I hear this before?
Mhm.
Where did I hear this before? And sometimes you're like,
Oh.
oh, and I'll sometimes ask a friend, like, hey, have you heard this? But like, is it, I'm worried, like, or, sometimes it happens where, you, you know, uh, you won't remember something in the morning. And I feel like if I worked on a theme and I don't remember it in the morning, then it's probably not the right thing. Like it should be stronger. And if I remember it without even writing it, like, if it's something I'm humming and like 3 days after, I'm like, oh, this is that. I go back to it. then this is my theme. I remember this happened a lot. Like this happened very clearly with One Fast Move actually, because I played something on piano. I did not write it down. And then a few days later, it came back to me and I played it again. And then, it's just continued to go back to me. I'm like,
Mm.
this is that. And then I started writing it and developing it, and it just like it magically was the right thing. So it's a kind of trial and error, I would say. So this is my first kind of initial thing. And process-wise, you have a spotting session where you sit with the filmmakers. In a film, it will be the director, sometimes the editor or producer team. With television, a lot of times it'll be just the showrunner. Sometimes it'll be with the editor. And you discuss what the music is going to do in every scene. How, when it's going to start, when it's going to end, what's the purpose of it. I feel like at some point, if there's accents that, I want to mention, or the showrunner, or the director, so there's places where they will probably say, oh, let's, make sure that we emphasize this, or like we're building up to this, or like let's make this, way bigger. This is a climax, or like this should be a very intimate moment, or, a lot of times we're kind of it's more discussing the shape of how things should feel. And I often want to know, like I'll ask questions and I'll try to understand how, especially in feature film, how the director visioned this. Because I come on the project way after the director has been with it for a long time. They shot it for what, like maybe a month or 2 months, but they've been with the script and they've been in pre-production. Like they have been there for so long before me, and they spend so much time with the characters and what they want. So it's really important to understand what, how I can complement that the best and how I can help the best. And, music has such a great power. So how do I, use it for the advantage of the story, and how do I get to the mind but of the filmmaker, but also bring my own expertise to that. And a lot of times they'll be like, what do you think? Like, you're the fresh eyes. You are the first time viewer. How do you think we should approach this? And sometimes there will be temp music. Sometimes there won't be temp music. In television, more often than not, there will be temp music.
Mhm.
Just because it helps approve cuts faster
Mm.
with the network. So they understand, okay, this is what's, it's going to be pacey. It's going to be like, yeah, there's an action sequence and boom, boom, boom. It's sometimes not really fitting at all. And yeah, sometimes in movies, same thing. Like, they just threw in something there, and assistant editor was sitting and was like, oh, I like this Hans Zimmer cue. Let's put it in, and it's completely not a fit. Or like, it's funny sometimes in Strange New Worlds, they'll put a cue that is from episode, this episode, and they'll put it here, and like, oh my
Oh,
God, like this is completely, this is this is Spock and T'Pring theme. Like, what is it doing? Like no, like that's not, But I get what they're trying to like emotionally. This is where the feel. It's wrong, visually. But this stuff happens. It's kind of funny. So yeah, you have the spotting session. It's both for film and TV. Um, and in TV, we also do that with sound a lot of times. So like music and sound people will have the same session, and that way I know, okay, Todd is going to do something really big there, and I don't have to like, there's going to be a big explosion. The music should be out before that, like,
Mm.
or there's going to be like, or sometimes, Sharon will say, "Oh, this is where I want music to lead," and okay, the music will take the front here, and the movie I'm working in now on now, for example, there's this clock element. And we were like, oh, who's doing the clock? Is that like this? should this be built in the score, like a 120 BPM kind of thing, or should this build in the sound? So that was a discussion in the spotting, like who's doing what. And then we said like, you know what, they'll do something, I'll do something, and we'll combine it, and whatever elements that we don't want, it will be muted. So it's really interesting. So yeah, there's that. Then I start working on the actual material. I have to demo things, so I will create a demo of it, whether it's recorded. It's obviously, you want like the producers to hear what it's gonna sound like, so they can react before we're doing the orchestra or the live players, because that's very costly. If you're working on a movie or film or a show that has less budget, then a lot of times like things will be done electronically, or you'll record a few players, but it's the same process. You'll still send files or do a meeting in person where you go and review every scene and every musical element that goes into the movie or the show. And so sometimes there's going to be like more feedback, like rounds. Again, movies have more time for that.
Yeah.
So there's more refining and more rounds. Sometimes it takes a moment to find the theme. So, you'll spend a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks on like, what is the theme? On Dream Productions, it took a while to find Mermaid Unicorn, for example, that song. Like, it came to me like, I think maybe 2.5 months into the project. I'm like,
Wow.
I just try to find something that is so annoyingly great, and then it came to me, and it was just, I played it on piano, and I'm like, that's it, I got it. And but there was, I remember we went to my friend's birthday, and we drove for like 50 minutes to Long Beach. And another friend was in the car, and I kept singing that, like, the lyrics to Mermaid Unicorn, trying to find a melody. And I just recorded the entire, ride. And so you hear him also trying to like help me with the melody and coming up with it. Like, I mean, he probably wanted to kill me that day. Like, it's just so many variations on Mermaid Unicorn, and eventually we found it. I found it a few days after, but yeah. So sometimes it'll take more time to figure out what it is that we need and how to do it. And then the last part of the process after things are approved is to, if there's budget, you record it. And in that process, there's usually a bigger team involved. Because it means you have to prepare Pro Tools sessions that will be used in the studio to be synced with, so where we can sync the music to picture and actually screen the picture, and make sure that everything works, then that all the moments we need to be big, maybe it needs to be bigger or smaller, or sorry, one thing.
Nope. Kazoo night.
Sorry. So adjustments like that, adjustments that like, sometimes when, the live player come and play it, like you're like, oh, it's too much, or like it's, maybe the trombones shouldn't play in like a more personal, intimate moment, But I thought, oh, this bravado really worked, but no, it actually doesn't. So sometimes the live performance does change things in the perspective of the film. We're like, oh, we need this to feel longer. Like, okay, let's add a bar, or like, let's make this shorter, or like, let's ask the orchestra to like do some aleatoric, fast, like scary, I don't know. Like, there's changes that happen. Same with in movies too. So that aspect really happens a lot. In Dream Productions, for example, the flute player was so cool, and he started doing things that were so cool, and we're like, let's record him solo. And like we asked him to stay for 2 more hours to do solos and more things on other cues where I didn't plan him to be on, but it was just so good and we could afford it. And I'm like, yeah, like it's amazing, and it adds so much.
Yeah. The music in Dream Productions is fantastic. So
thank you.
It really is.
It's just so fun to, like, probably the most fun to record ever. It's just we did 3 days with the core ensemble, and then one day with the children to sing the songs, and then the orchestra on the last day. It was like a full orchestra day. So
Wow.
it was a whole week of adventures at Warner Brothers Studio. Super fun. And yeah, and so after that, like there's the final mix where
Mm.
so sorry, there's something called a score mix. So the score mixer takes all the musical elements, those that are live, those that are not live, and balances everything together to bring it to the best that it can be, and also kind of be mindful of dialogue and things that are happening on picture. So it's a whole expertise of score, score mixing. It's not like song mixing. It's two different worlds really.
Hmm.
And then there's a final dub where all the audio elements in the film or the show are being dubbed together. So you have dialogue, you have sound effects or Foley, like everything that goes with it. And then you have music, and everything needs to be balanced. Okay, here we're leaning more toward sound. Here we're leaning more toward the emotional music. Here we're leaning toward, so it really changes. Or like here, they have to hear that word. It's super important in dialogue. Like, oh, it was ADR. It's usually the very last thing that happens because all the visual effects need to be ready by the time we're going to the dub. Because every visual effect that has a sound thing, it has to be synced perfectly. So oftentimes, a certain episode will almost be ready, and then they're like, "Oh, we're just missing one VFX shot, so we're gonna have to come back to that and like fix that." Things like that still happen.
Hmm. That's a lengthy, complicated process. It sounds like.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention everything because there's like orchestration and music prep, and like there's even more elements that happen before the scoring, before you go to the orchestra. But yes, it's much more complicated than people think.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. There's like so much creativity like in each aspect of that process. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
From
I can't, I
begin,
can,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I can't imagine like sometimes I'm like, because it seems to me like, oh, my orchestrator is doing such an amazing job. I'm so happy with everything he does. And also there's another orchestrator, like everything they do is amazing. And I'm like, if I had to make these choices super quickly, I would be like a little, sometimes I would be probably stressed. And they just seem to do it so perfectly. And then, actually the last session, Jeff, the lead orchestrator, told me like, oh, there's so many options. Sometimes I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like it's such a mystery. And
Yeah.
I'm very relieved that it works out. Like, this guy has orchestrated like pretty much everything Michael does. And everything I've done since like 2018. Like, I mean, it's just I'm always fascinated by so much of the creativity that they bring in. And, I know that like it's more difficult than it looks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nami, I'm curious. This is a bizarre question. Well, maybe not bizarre, but at the beginning, you mentioned like your tangent into music and kind of this path of your life, right? You mentioned your sister
Hmm.
playing piano, and then you joined the orchestra because of the boy.
Yeah.
So did you ever tell him like say, hey, I joined the orchestra because of you, and that helps
You know,
propel like this path of your life?
I'm not sure he knows. I
Oh,
mean, it's a funny story. Like,
yeah.
so we became really good friends,
Ah,
over school and then high school, and then like after high school, we actually became a couple for a while.
ah,
So and he switched from euphonium to trombone, and he majored also in music and physics, I think, or something like that.
mhm.
Like in high school. And so yeah, we were very much in the music together. I don't know that he's aware of that though. I should ask him. I'm still in touch with him. He's married,
Yeah.
kids, and but yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I'm curious if he knows.
He might know now if he's watching the show.
Maybe I doubt it. But he did drive me to a lot of like he really liked anime.
Hmm.
And there's a show called One Piece. Maybe you guys are familiar.
Heard of it? Yep.
So that's actually my name. Nami is from that character. Like there's a character named Nami, and he
Oh,
called me like that was a nickname. After her because my real name is Nama, but it's I go by Nami now. Um, but yeah, he introduced me to like the soundtrack for that, and I remember there was a track called Luffy's Appearance, and I listened to that like 1,000 times probably. I still can sing it. Like it's such a great track, and we would make each other playlists and stuff like that to listen to from movies, and occasionally he'll still send me soundtracks. He was like, "Oh, what do you think about this?" When Netflix did like they did a live action version of One Piece. So he's like, "Oh, I really like this soundtrack too." It's very different. But yeah, I'll ask him if he's aware. It's interesting.
there you go.
So I have to ask you maybe the most important question that we're going to ask you
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
So Chris and I have done 2 debate style episodes on the podcast we call them the Great Nerd Debate. The first Great Nerd Debate we did was Star Trek versus Star Wars and whether or not you have to pick a side or you can like both and so forth. The Great Nerd Debate number 2 was where we each picked a decade for movies only, no TV show, nothing, just movies, and debated which we thought was the greatest decade of all time for movies. We narrowed it down to the 1980s versus the 1990s,
Huh.
and we've allowed people to do their write-in votes if it's a different decade, but we must ask you, Nami, which decade do you think was the greatest decade of all time for movies?
90s, 100%. It was my now when you just brought this up, I was like either 90s or 80s, like so exactly that. And then I'm like 90s, 100%. And it's not because and it's funny because I grew up in the 90s, right? I'm like born in 88. And I think I did not acknowledge how amazing like movies were at the time because I was too little to understand them. But growing up and watching, I'm a huge film buff. Like I maintain a list of everything I watch, and like the Academy would be very proud.
Yes.
And when I go back to like the way that storytelling was done, where dialogue was the most important thing, and the most like everything was just so written in such a and built in and scores too, by the way. Like those 19 movies are just they had the right formula, and I feel like a lot of people are trying to imitate that and go back to that, and it's really hard. And today, like you have all these things you can hide behind, right? You have amazing sound and you have amazing effects and visual like, tricks and like all great chases. But it really comes down for me to like the essence of the story, good acting, delivery of the lines. And the lines need to be really good. And I feel like, films like Forrest Gump were the top of to me, that's like the top of what, cinematic storytelling is. I've watched that film, I don't know how many times. Like it's just insane. So that kind of, it's just so, it's the story. It's not, there's nothing, visually. I mean, there's some visuals that are amazing there, but like, and if you look at those movies, a lot of them are not like the huge budget that we have today for movies. And they were done for like a fraction of it. Similarly, I have to say, a show like Schitt's Creek, for example, the Canadian show,
Yeah.
was done for like so little and made such a splash because it's such a good writing. It was great writing, and performance and everything. So I really that would be my argument. Then the 90s is 90s for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really good decade selection, Nami.
Yeah. I'll bet it is, Chris. I'll bet it is. Yep. Yep. Tally that up for you. Tally it up for you.
What's the score like for by now?
I don't know. I think it's pretty even, actually. Honestly, we've asked a lot of our guests that, and there's been a variety of answers. There's actually been a number of write-in votes for the 1970s, just because some of the classic movies that spawned so many things. I mean, I think science fiction got a huge foothold in the 70s, which then spurred the amazing decade of the 1980s for science fiction, and then so forth. So I don't know if we've actually kept track, Chris, but I'd say we're fairly close. I don't know exactly who's winning yet, but we'll tally that one up for you, my friend, in the 1990s.
Yes. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's a big, I mean, the 1990s are not like the sci-fi, it's not the sci-fi time.
But it did have some massive blockbusters in movies in general. I mean, the 90s was so packed full of some unbelievably incredible movies.
Yeah. I mean, the, what's that? What was it called? Shawshank, for example,
Oh, the Shawshank Redemption. Yeah.
Yeah.
like that kind of, or Lion King, like there's so many, like,
Jurassic Park.
yeah, it's, there's a lot of that, like, yeah, but you're right, like there's not a lot of sci-fi in that.
No, I mean, for me, the 1980s was amazing simply because my favorite movies of all time fell in the 1980s, and that's Back to the Future. So, I mean, I had to go with that. But
Yeah.
speaking of movies, how excited are you to be voting for the Academies on the movies going forward? And what do you think that's going to be like for you?
I will say a couple things. First of all, it's an amazing honor to be part of the Academy. Like, I've always dreamed to be part of the Academy. It's like it was a bucket list item for me. It's not so much about voting, in a sense. It's just a feel of like, okay, like, I'm part of this, group of people who really like admire, like they are cinema to me. Like, these are my heroes. So being part of them is very meaningful. Those greatest movies of all time, like it's just, it's an honor to even be like in that building. One thing that's really cool about the Academy is that they do all these screenings, for members and like guests as well. And they really they give place for like a lot of movies. It's not just the biggest movies that come out. It's also like more indie things or like small, so there's like an equal chance there for presentation. They also like they make sure that you are able to watch the films that you're going to vote on. I am definitely excited to give my vote, but it's not the main reason. It's very cool, yeah, for sure. And I don't know who I'm gonna vote for yet. I haven't seen everything. I do make a point of, and this was in previous years as well. Because there's always these parties where you make your bets and like. And I always make a point to watch as many as possible. And if I haven't watched it, I will not vote on the category because I haven't watched. So and this year I'm going to make it like that, I think all of the Christmas break, I'm probably going to watch everything. I also just signed up for like the international film category because I love those international films. Like I grew up on watching mainly actually foreign cinema, not American. So, I'm to be fair, this is the category I'm most excited about. And also short films, like I have a very big place in my heart for that. I'm not sure if I can vote on that like before the nominations or not. I have to find out. Yeah, because there's all these rules. Like, I'm a member of the music branch, so it's a little different if you want to sign up for a different category. I don't know all the rules just yet.
So being a part of the organization, does that give you the opportunity to actually go to the award ceremonies?
I don't know. I will find out. I know that you could, potentially, if you wanted to join like the Governor Award or something like that, there was a lottery that you could sign up for, and the tickets were only $1,000.
Oh my gosh!
No. Seriously, people don't know that, but like the being a member of the Academy is $450 a year. And I look at it as a very like fancy AMC subscription because you get to see all these movies for free, right?
It's like
But it is very,
yeah, it's like a fancy Fandango, right? You get to watch all of it. Yeah.
But the plus is a lot of times in these screenings there is a Q&A after, and then you get to watch like on the stage there's the director or the producers, some actors. I just watched they did a screening of Eleanor the Great. And June Squibb, the lead actor, was there, and another one of the actors, and the screenwriter. So it's really interesting to see also which guests they bring, because a lot of times it's a different perspective. Like I'm sure if they brought Scarlett Johansson, the director, it would have been an entirely different conversation. So it's very enriching, I think, especially as a filmmaker to see, and to learn more about what how the screenwriter approach something, or how the actor approach a certain scene or line, and like learn about all these challenges or difficulties, or it's really interesting to see what other people do in my profession.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes like, oh, how do the cinematographers, how did they do that? It's pretty inspiring, because I just see the final on my screen, but they had to get there somehow.
Yeah.
So overall, I'm very happy to be part of the Academy. And I think it's totally worth the membership fees.
Yeah, I think you will do a great job on the Academy. Yeah, you absolutely will.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so too. If you have recommendations to watch this year, let me know. I'll I always like to discover new films and things, projects that sometimes don't see the screen, like the spotlight, but they deserve it. Yeah.
There's actually a movie on Netflix I just watched. I thought it was really wonderful. It's really inspiring. It's based on a true story. It's got Vince Vaughn in it, and it's called Nona.
Nona. Okay. I'm gonna write this down.
I thought it was wonderful. It's a very inspiring story, and again, based on a true story. At the very end, they show like little video clips of the actual restaurant and of the real life people. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Very touching. I think the writing in it is really great, and it's just a wonderful story.
Wow. I'll watch it. It's Netflix. Easy.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn, I like him.
Yeah, he's good. Well, Nami, we really want to thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It's really been fascinating to learn your processes, to learn your side of the business and what goes into it. Because, like we said in the beginning, I think we can all agree that music, I think, can really make or break a movie or a series, and that underlying, score. I mean, what's Star Wars without John Williams' score, or Jurassic Park? I mean, name a composer, right? What are those movies without that music that adds that element of drama or lightheartedness to it? And your work on Strange New Worlds has been spectacular. I mean, I know I've gushed several times on our podcast about the music of Strange New Worlds, and we really thank you for taking this time to come on and be with us and explain your processes and share your career with us. It's been awesome.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. It was very deep questions here, and a lot to think about, like really. And I really enjoyed talking with you guys. And I will also say that finally the soundtrack is out. Since
oh yeah, for season 3, right?
Yeah, yesterday it came out on all platforms, and yeah, I'm very happy about it. And also, it has very very fun titles.
Yeah.
That we worked on for a long time. Yeah. So I'm hoping that people will enjoy it, because we can't put everything on. I have to pick and choose like a few tracks from every episode. But I think I did a good job in selecting and kind of organizing and stuff. So yeah, it'll be.
I'm looking forward to listening to that.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you so much as always. Yeah, Chris, we've had so many different aspects of production on the podcast, different people coming on and talking about those different elements, but we haven't had music yet, and that was really a big thing missing. So having Nami on was I know really a big treat for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. Nami, thank you. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful to hear you express like your process and your creativity. And we're looking forward to seeing your projects.
Thank you. And I look forward to hearing the conclusion on the 90s versus 80s decade. And also, I will say Star Trek is the better franchise.
Ooh, okay. All right, there you go.
I have so many reasons for that. As a fan of both, I love both.
Yeah.
But to say which one has been doing things better from the beginning of time, which one has predicted the future better, which future do I want to live in? All of that is Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when people ask me, who are not Star Trek or Star Wars fans, and they go, well, Star Trek and Star Wars is just the same, right? Like when I met my wife, she thought Star Trek was a sequel to Star Wars, and I almost had a heart attack. And she's like, it's all the same, right? I'm like, no, the difference is that Star Trek is this wagon train to the stars idea that Gene Roddenberry came up with. Star Wars, which I also love, but Star Wars is a space soap opera about two kids with daddy issues. I mean, there are differences. The only similarity is it's in space and there's aliens. That's the similarities in it too. But I mean, when I was a kid growing up, I was more into Star Wars. Star Wars appeals more to the younger audience, right? I mean, I think we can agree with that. Star Trek is I think more geared towards older people, older kids, and it wasn't until I was a little older that I really got into Star Trek. But yeah, I mean, I have a soft spot for both.
Oh yeah,
and for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
But
I hear you. There's not a single year where I don't watch the original trilogy of Star Wars. Like it's not a year
Nice.
unless I actually watched it.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. I hear you.
Yeah. Well, we again thank you so much, Nami, as always, for coming on. Very much appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for watching all over the globe and the interwebs. We very much appreciate it. Be sure to go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, Threads, and all that jazz to check us out there. And be sure to go follow Nami on all the social platforms that she's on. You're on Instagram. I know we follow you on there. And then what other platforms are you on?
I'm on Twitter or like X. I'm on Facebook, kind of. I'm not really there, but yeah, mainly Instagram and X. Yeah.
Yeah, be sure to go check that out, and be sure to go check out season 3's music, because it's amazing, and you can find that, I think, probably on iTunes, right, and in the other platforms.
Yeah, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere that Apple Music, like people that stream music, that's where it is.
Yeah. Well, be sure to go check that out. And thank you again, everybody, so much for watching and listening. Take care, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Random Redshirt Podcast.